Thank you. The mom zebra had a baby, and the little baby just born, smelling things, touching the grass, looking in the sky, and within 5 seconds, the mom zebra said, "Come on! You have to learn how to run and walk right now." The baby goes, "Come on, mama, I was just born 5 seconds ago. Let me touch things, smell things." And the mom zebra goes, "Come on, you have to learn how to walk and run right now." "Why, mom?" "Because the lions are coming. And if you don't learn how to walk and run, the lions are going to eat you alive." I know you're thinking, "Come on, Roberto, that's a cute story," but in my business as a mortgage originator, we don't have lions. They are like locked up in the zoo. We have different kinds of lions, right? Unfulfilled dreams, maybe mortgage lenders online, maybe big companies will spend a lot of money on ads, and I know that because I live in San Diego, California, and I see so many huge companies over and over spending millions of dollars. The online lenders and other companies. So the lions are coming. That's why today, in the next hour that I have here, my goal is very simple. Number one, to explain to you why your best tool to fight these lions is your story. Number two, I'm going to share with you a sequence, a structure, or a way for you to organize your story. And number three, I hope that I can inspire you to share your message on an entire new level. For us, though, to make this a really good training the next hour, one thing is necessary, is that you guys participate with me, because research shows that if you just listen to me like that for an hour, be like after lunch, information goes here and leaves, and you're going to remember around 10%. Now, research shows that if you write things down, raise your hand, you say things out loud with energy. Say energy. Come on, guys, say energy. Energy. You're actually going to remember, your retention goes from 10% to 90%. So the key word in the next hour and the next 5 hours is what? Is participation. Say with me, participation. Because you don't want to waste our time, right? Come here and get entertained for an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours, then leave and don't learn anything. So let me tell you why I'm so passionate about this topic, about Discover Your Story. Originally, I'm from Brazil, and usually it takes like 5 minutes for you guys to understand me because of my accent, right? I'm not from New York, so I came here in America 20 years ago. Came here, no money, no connection. And in Brazil, I used to be a banker. I used to work for Banco do Brasil for 9 years. I graduated with finance degree. And I remember one day I came to work, and I'm like, do I want to be a banker the next 30 years of my life? And I had this gut feeling no. And I said, I'm going to quit. And I literally went back home that day. I said, Mom, I'm quitting. She's like, why? I was like, I'm quitting. So I quit. And then I went to Europe for 3 months to learn English. And then at that time, my ex-girlfriend said, we don't like England because the weather is cloudy and cold. Do you want to go to California, Roberto? And all I remember at that time, all I knew about California was Baywatch girls running on the beach, right? And I'm like, I want to go to California, right? So we went to California, and I landed in San Diego, and pretty much that started another phase of my life. Has anybody been to San Diego? Let's see, most of you? Okay. Anybody from San Diego? Let's see. A couple people, love that. So imagine this, if you're from San Diego or you've been there, there's a coffee house called 976 in Pacific Beach. So I'm reading a book, literally studying English, and then all of a sudden, I read this little question that changed my life. And the question said, if I could do anything in my life and I knew I could not fail, what would I be doing today, right here, right now with my life? Not like law of attraction where we just think about it. I'm talking about for real. Anything that I could do, I'll be successful. And I didn't have this answer. And I started going to seminar after seminar after seminar. I didn't have a purpose that time. And I went to a training just like similar to this one, put by a company called Size Seminars. And I know the last thing they did, they said, write your 90 days goal. And I wrote one goal, work for Tony Robbins. Even though I never been to Tony Robbins event, all I knew about Tony was I bought a CD and I listened to the CD over and over, and it was really powerful. And I was hired in 87 days. When I went to my interview, there's a guy named Jim Miller that used to be the first vice president of sales. He looked at me and said, Roberto, you have a lot of energy. I have one spot to be a speaker for Tony, but I don't know if you can speak because you have this thick accent. And I said, look, I am not going to be your best speaker. I'm not. I will be, though, your #1 sales guy. Because my job was to do presentations. I was doing around 400. How many, guys? 400. Presentations a year. 2 mortgage companies, real estate offices. And I was promoting the event called Unleash the Power Within. And the beginning of my career, I was extremely, extremely terrible. Because I was one call close, so I go in to a real estate office, do a talk, and I got a close for a $1,000 ticket to see Tony Robbins. I was terrible. And then I got a coach, started improving. Then eventually, I started breaking sales records. And then the company had me train other speakers. That's when I found my passion, my purpose. I love to help people improve their communication skills. Love it. So after 6 beautiful years, Tony, I opened up a company called InfluenceOlogy. What's the company's name? And I have worked with 31 industries. And I've done a lot of work for the mortgage industry, many, many years. Throughout this path, looking back now, I always was very fascinated with amazing presenters. Could be a presentation of 1, 101, 1 to 5, 1 to 10. And I asked myself, why someone is from the same company, they have the same script, same product, same manager, same CRM, and someone is so good communicating and the other people is not, in any field. Now, there are a lot of reasons, okay? Not only one answer. But one of them is storytelling, story selling. And that's what my presentation is about today. One of the benefits from you attending this session is that our industry, more and more years pass by, quote unquote, you're becoming more of a commodity. Is that correct? Yes or no, guys? And one thing that I believe in your heart, that I believe when you craft and deliver your story, it's going to be easier to get deals because you're going to be able to stand out from the marketplace. The second benefit that you're going to get from learning this is that you're going to increase your conversion ratios. Regardless if you're doing one-on-one with a consumer, one-on-one with a realtor, one-on-one with a home builder, you will, because most of us in the mortgage business, we are trained to communicate to the left brain, numbers, logic, and reason, which is still super, say super, important. That was a super with my accent. I like that. I love that. Now, in addition to, I want you guys to see communication presentation, not only you have logic, but also you bring emotion. Say emotion. Thank you. And by the way, I love the way you guys engaging. And the third benefit is that how many of you feel sometimes you have a consumer or you have a real estate agent, sometimes quote unquote, we vomit information on them. Does anybody feel the way? They provide so much information that people freeze. So I think storytelling is going to allow you to reduce that. Now, storytelling works just like the Trojan horse. Remember the Trojan horse story? The Trojans and the Greek armies were fighting, and the Greek army was losing the battle. So what they did, they sail away and build up this beautiful horse. Now the Trojans go, hey, we won the war. They left this beautiful gift for us. They brought the horse in to their city, and in the middle of the night, what happens? The Greek army opened the horse, they saw the horse, end up conquering the town. Story selling is just like that, because when you tell a story to a consumer, a real estate professional, or a builder or financial planner, is a story, and within the story, you have a persuasive message that go into your audience's hearts, minds, and souls. That's why I work. Now, question, how long we have been telling stories? How long? Amigos and amigas, how long? Since what? We were cavemen, right? So if you have 100,000 years, 100,000 years of communication, written communication is around 5,000 years, the size of your hand, and 100,000 years is oral communication. That's why it's easy for us to just come home and turn on TV and watch someone talk to us than for us to write or read stuff. Now, every time I do storytelling presentation, one of the questions that people ask me is this: Roberto, can storytelling help me close more business? What is the return on investment about storytelling? Because if you're business people, you want to know if it works. Is that correct? Yes or no? Yes. I want to know too. Hey, you teach me a skill. Can I make money with this? So there's a whole book called Story Proof, right, with 100 studies on the power of persuasion when you use stories. I select a few. One of them, this study was done, and the psychologists, they want to know this. If you just get an object, right, like $1 or $2 or $3, and you attach a story into the object, can you increase the value of the object? Almost like if you have a loan here, if you attach a story to the loan, can increase the value of the loan. Right? So here's what they did. They went out and they got all these small objects for 50 cents, $1, $2. And then they hire professional copywriters. And they made up a story. By the way, the story wasn't real. They made up. And then they went to eBay and they put the story with the object and to see if people would buy. It's a real study. Now, obviously, they're not trying to cheat people. So what they did, when someone bought the object, they got a notification saying, hey, by the way, you're being part of a psychological study. If you want to buy this object, it's real. The story is not. And you're going to donate your money. You don't want your money. You want to make sure if your object is yours. So here's some results for you, which is mind-blowing. Okay? So then you have this Smiley mug. Original price what? $2. Final price, $32. Is that crazy? Is that good ROI? Yes or no? Yeah. Amigos and amigas, yes or no? Yes. How about this one? Bowling bag, salt shaker. What's the price there? Original price, can I see from here? 50 cents. Sold by how much? Is that a good ROI? Yes or no? Sí, gracias. How about this one? Wooden mallet. Price what? 33 cents. Final price, 71. Is that good ROI? Yes or no? A little, a lot. How about fake banana? Original price, how much? Sold by how much? Just saying. And this study became so popular, they actually wrote a book about it. And here's the stories, they're not big like this. And here's the top 10, as you can see. Look at the return on investment, someone. Original price, global paperweight, $1.49, sold for $197. Because people were so connected with what? The story. And one thing, I was just having lunch with someone today, that I just met today, and they say, we have been in real estate and mortgage for 29 years, and we never share our story. 29 years. But it's not your fault, because most of us, we are not trained to think in terms of story. I got a BA in finance, MBA in marketing. I never took a class on how to tell a story, ever. Ever. Right? That's the idea. Now, from a psychological standpoint, storytelling works because when we communicate to your audience, you always got to ask yourself, what is driving that person? What is driving that person to take action? Now, values, what's important to them, their belief system, what they believe to be true, those things are learned through experience, from their parents, education. Now, values and beliefs we learn. These 16 desires We all have. Everybody here in the room has desires. Because this is science, and I know this, when I open up my talk, I chose to open up the story about the zebra because one thing I know about you, even though I don't know everybody personally, I know as a human being, you're what? What's the first C there? Curious. So when you tell a story, you're cutting people's filters, belief systems, judgment, and you're speaking or presenting to their humanity. That's why storytelling is so powerful. Now, I want to do a quick exercise with you. Take a deep breath, everybody. All right, just relax. I'm going to show you 3 quick videos, okay? Just relax.
Derek Redmond didn't finish in first place in the 1992 400 meter.
Redmond has broken down.
He didn't finish in second,
Derek Redmond,
or third,
his injury problem
or fourth.
Jinx has struck again.
He and his father finished dead last. But he and his father finished. Visa, proud sponsor of the Olympic Games and the only card accepted there.
Now, 4 years later.
Hours before his race in '88, Dan Jansen's sister, Jane, passed away. He'd promised her he'd win gold. He didn't. Until 6 years later. Then he skated a victory lap with his daughter, Jane. Visa, the only card accepted at the Olympic Games. More people go with Visa.
Now, get a pen and paper real quick. In 1 or 2 words, please write down how you're feeling right now. It's very important. Describe in 1, 2, or maybe 3 words how you are feeling right now. It's very important. I'm doing a quick exercise here. In 1, 2, or 3 words, please write it down how you're feeling right now. By a show of hands, how many of you have any of these words that you wrote down? I want to see, keep it up and say hi. If you do, keep it up. Look around the room. Look around the room. We got like maybe 90% of you. That's called what, guys? Emotional what? Thank you. Predictability. When you go into the storytelling, when you start thinking in terms of story, you can call and you can figure out how do I want that real estate agent, that consumer, that builder, the financial planner to feel. Do people make decisions logically or emotionally? What do you think? Think about that. So now you have the power to say, okay, how do I want the consumer, the buyer, the realtor, how do I want them to feel? The last study, just to prove you about the power of storytelling, then I'm going to show you, talk about how you're actually going to build up your story. How many of you used to watch ER? Ladies, yes? So there's a book, one of my mentors wrote this book called Resistance and Persuasion. It's an old school book. It's very technical, but it's awesome. And he was talking about, in psychology, on influence, persuasion, there's a term they call transportation. And the term used by scientists, transportation, means that when you tell a story, how much you're going to transport, quote unquote, or move the audience of one or many into another place. Basically, have you ever been in a situation in your life when you walk home, you go home, and maybe your kids or your spouse like this, in front of a TV? Then you talk to them, they're like, yes or no? Because they're what? They're transported. I'm using a psychological term. Basically in trance. They are so in the story. And so what they did, they called thousands of ER viewers to see, is the TV show ER, which they're not real doctors, they're actors. Does that show, do you think, is influence how people make decisions about their health? What do you think? Let's see the results. 50% of the viewers discuss the health issues with their friends and family. Not a big deal. Right? According to this study, 14% contact a health professional after the show. Not a big deal. Check this out. This is my favorite one. 33% of the viewers used the information from ER to make health decisions. Just think about that. Just think about that. Now, I could go on and on and on, study after study, about the power of storytelling that can help you influence more, sell more, lead better. But you don't have a lot of time today. So here's what is important for you to know. When it comes to your career, my career, there are 3. How many? 3. I need more energy, guys. How many? 3 different kinds of stories that as a professional, loan officer, manager, leader, influencer, you have to tell. Is your personal story, which is the focus of the next half an hour, your client story, and then Swiss Army knife story. Now, the client story is very simple. If you're speaking to a consumer, you may have several consumer stories. If you're speaking with realtors, you have your real estate agents' stories. If you're speaking to builders, you have your builder stories. Very simple. How was the situation before the problem, during, process, after result by working with you? Then you have the Swiss Army knife story, is the stories for everything else. If you want to talk about communication, resilience, dedication, working hard, an example of a Swiss Army knife story is the zebra story. I was trying to illustrate a point to you. And the hardest story, the most difficult one to craft, is your personal story. Roberto, why is that? Because let's say you're in front of a consumer, one-on-one, or you're going to do video marketing, or you're doing, how many of you do small talks for real estate agents or other groups, public speaking? Okay? Well, maybe 20% of you, 30% of you, awesome. So let's say you're doing a little presentation, you have your story. You're trying to combine literally 30, 40, 50, 6 years of your life in 4 minutes. Think about that. That is the hardest thing to do. But I hope today that you understand why you're doing it. Number 2, I'm going to show you a format. Say format. That you're going to go home, you're going to copy, and then you're going to practice, and then you're going to put your story in the same format that I use today here. Some of the benefits of a story: build up trust. By the way, there's a lot of research on trust right now. We live in a very, very, very low trust era. Let me prove to you. How many of you right now trust more the government now than 10 years ago, by show of hands? Oh, nobody. Okay. How many of you trust more the media now than 10 years ago, by show of hands? Oh, nobody. See? We live in a very low trust era. That's what's important, because you see, when you go into facts, I can counter-argue your facts all day long. All day long in influence. One thing that I cannot do is counter-argue your story. How am I going to counter-argue your personal story? I can. It's your story. How am I going to counter-argue the stories of your patients or your clients? I can, because they're your clients. Number 2, frame your services. Because we all have our service that we do, and your personal story will create this trust, the emotion to help you frame what you're going to offer in the end. Increase connection, we talk about that. Help you stand out, because I'm telling you, just stop right now and think with me. Can people copy your logo? Can copy, have another branch, another CRM, hire a team member? People can copy everything nowadays. Is that correct? Yes or no? Amigos and amigas, yes? One thing they're going to have a very hard copy is what? Your? Try to copy my stories and see if it works. Huh? So you have to change the mindset and lead with your strength. Your strength is what? Is you. Lead with you. Lead with your strength. And a story is not a story until it's told. That's why everybody in this room, say everybody. You have to lead with your uniqueness, which is a story. There's 7 billion people. You're the only one who have that story. And also, you're going to increase your brand recall. Brand recall is that how people are going to remember you in your story a month or a week or 2 months later they talk to you. That's why people think, I I met a couple people before the event. Oh, Roberto, the Brazilian guy, Tony Robbins. So they're like, oh yeah, they remember, because when I open up my talk, I go right into my story. So it helps your audience remember that. And explain your mission. That's all these things that accomplish in a story. Now, I didn't like wake up in the morning and I just, oh, you gotta tell a personal story. I actually had the mentors. Some of them that were alive, some of them were dead. When I started studying storytelling, I came across the name of this gentleman, Joseph Campbell. How many of you heard the name Joseph Campbell before? Okay, a couple people. Now, basically, it was an American mythologist, and he studied cultures and stories from all over the world. And then he realized that there's a unique pattern or a unique story that happens in every single culture, in pretty much every single place around the planet. He called the hero's journey. How many of you have heard the hero's journey? Okay? The hero's journey, all it is a sequence, say with me, sequence of events. All it is a sequence of events that everybody goes through it. And what he did, he formulated, there's 17 steps. And what he did, he shared this sequence of events to production companies in Hollywood. And what they did, the first movie who embraced that was Star Wars. And then after that, they got all these successful movies. For example, Spider-Man, Batman, Avatar. If you go to the top movies that I watched most of the time, all time, you're gonna see a hero pattern in all of them. It's crazy. And this is not, I'm not talking about only works in America. This sequence of events works in every single culture on the world. So then I learned this. By the way, if you go to Wikipedia later on and type it up, Hero's Journey, there's the 17 steps there. So once I learned the 17 steps, I'm like, man, it's too complicated. So then 8 years ago, I learned it, and I said, I work with a lot of CEOs, financial planners, mortgage professionals, dentists, doctors. I'm like, how can I teach someone to tell their story, who they are, why they're there, using something similar? So instead of like 17 steps, maybe cut it down maybe to 6, 7. And that's what I did 8 years ago, and the results has been amazing. So what I'm gonna share with you right now is an InfluenceOlogy way of organizing your structure, your story. Because I know what's gonna happen is you're gonna be fired up, and you're gonna be like, okay, I gotta tell my story, but how do I do it? How do I do it? So I wanna give you a format real quick. Here we go. First thing, you start a story talking about life as usual to create some context for your audience. That's the first thing. Give a little bit background. In my example, I talk about, hey, I grew up in Brazil, I used to work in a bank. The second step is enemy. Say with me, enemy. Amigos and amigas, say enemy. What happens is that if there's no enemy, no conflict, there's no story. So if you think about every great movie that you watch, there's always this conflict, right? There's always this enemy. And the enemy, my enemy here, was my lack of purpose, was my fear. And your enemy, as a loan officer, could be the government, could be someone that you saw in a marketplace doing something bad to a real estate agent or doing something bad to a consumer. So one good question for you to ask yourself is this. As you're presenting to a consumer or a real estate agent, think about what are their current problem or enemies, and how can, if it is real, how can you use that in my story so that when you share a story, you create something called identification. Say with me, identification. And then you have a conflict. Now, if you think in terms of like your favorite movies, there's always this conflict. There's some emotion, there's some drama. Is that correct? Yes or no? If there's no conflict, it's not a good story. If there's no conflict, it's not a story. And then if you think about where you are today in your career, there's always an aha moment. Is it fair to say that if you think about it, look, you could be doing anything you want in your life. Is that correct? You can do anything. Now, America is, I believe, the place of opportunity. You can do anything you want. Anything, pretty much. And if you chose to be a mortgage professional, there's an aha moment that caused to be, I want to help people to buy a home. There's an aha moment. And then you have something called transformation. Say transformation. So basically, transformation is some of the steps that you took to be where you are. The transformation piece is really important. That's in a storytelling. By the way, where do I tell my story? Say everywhere. I tell my story. When I have one-on-one Starbucks potential client, I sit down, I ask a lot of questions first. At one point, they're going to be like, okay, how about you, Roberto? Say, well, let me tell you why I became a coach. And go, boom, same story. Tell a seminar, same story. Public speaking, same story. Webinar, same story. Because I know that story is going to have and give me all the benefits that I just exposed to you. And then the last piece of the story is your mission. Say with me, mission. This is so important, and it's so I want to make sure everybody gets this, that I actually broke down step by step here. And I actually wrote down some questions, say questions. So when you go home, you literally, because, by the way, this is one of the most challenging things as a communicator and influence that you got to develop, your story. Why again, Roberto? Number one, you're not used to tell a story. Number two, you're trying to combine 50 years or 60 years in 3-4 minutes. Right? That's why it's so challenged. So life as usual, the context here, the outcome is the context, and you can ask this question, how was my career before this aha moment? The second part is my enemy. You want to create identification. And identification equals influence. Identification equals sales. Identification equals yes from consumers or realtors. Right? Basically, when someone in the audience of 1 or 5 or 10 or 20 be like, I can relate to that person. Right? And a good question to ask is, what are some of the problems, barriers that you overcame that your audience may be experiencing now, for example? And here's my example, my story I share with you today. I did not have a purpose, I was lost. Then you have conflict. Say conflict. That is the emotional too. And maybe by the way, this doesn't have to be super long, can be as short as, I saw something that someone did with a consumer and I wasn't feel good about it. Then I decided to do something about it. Right? I want to help, I want to protect consumers. Right? Which is the next step. Your aha moment, decision moment. The cool thing about the aha moment, basically it helps you frame, say frame. The decision moment, actually, because you want in the end of a presentation, that person makes what? A decision. And then the transformation. And the transformation are some of the steps that you took. And then I figured out the best process. I built up the best team around me. I figured out the best technology to serve. So you share some of the steps that you took that, quote unquote, adds credibility to you and your services. And the last piece, a mission. Because your audience of one, by the way, everybody wants to make money. Is that correct? Yes or no, guys? Do you know anybody who doesn't want to make more money? I want to make more money. Right? But what we do, I believe, has to be bigger than that. You see, motivation 1.1 was survival. Motivation 2.0 was profit maximization. And motivation 3.0 is purpose maximization. If you look at the companies who are very successful nowadays, they have a purpose, and obviously they want to monetize, maximize. So that's the sequence. And when you go home, I want you guys to ask these questions, and you have my examples because you guys heard my story here, so that you can build your story. Now, Roberto, how long should my story be? All depends. Say with me, depends. Now, here's something that's really important. When you tell your story, The easiest way for you to understand this principle is this. Think about, Roberto, what has been the defining moment? Another word for aha moment is defining moment. Say defining moment. What has been a defining moment of my career? And then, that is the middle of your story. Then, what you do, first thing, you think about the moment. And then, number two, you describe the past. How was your career in the past? How's your career before? What was the enemy? What was the conflict? And then, describe some of the steps that you took. And then, describe your mission. I want you guys to take a picture of this real quick, because this is the blueprint for you. If you're doing public speaking, you gotta tell a story. If you're doing webinars, you gotta tell a story. If you're doing video marketing, I know they're gonna wrap off a couple of video shoots, which is amazing. You're gonna use your story. If you're doing one-on-one presentations to consumers or one-on-one presentations to realtors, you wanna tell a story. Every single time. And I'm telling you, 99% of your competition, they don't know this information. I promise. So I hope that you apply this information. Couple things you gotta know. Number one, your story must connect with your overall message. So remember, you're gonna have one personal story, and remember, if you're speaking to a group of realtors, it might be a little bit different than if you're speaking to a group of consumers. You guys follow me? Number one. Number two, a story is not chronology. Sometimes you make a mistake that we try to put everything you did and becomes kind of boring, so avoid that. Number three, some stories you're right to tell, some stories you're not right to tell, and that's okay. I was thinking in terms of this. When you're speaking, you have a person in front of you, consumer, real estate agent, a builder, financial planner. I always ask yourself, what's the story I'm gonna tell? You have your story, why you do what you do, why you do what you do. And then you can help frame the end to make sure that person can relate to that. Your story, you have different versions, longer and shorter. Don't try to be perfect. Try to connect. I'm telling you, if you try to be perfect, you'll never, ever tell a personal story. It's a work in progress, talk about that. And you gotta deliver your message with passion. Is passion important in your business? Yes or no? A little, a lot. So obviously, you wanna calibrate how much passion you have. If you're speaking with one person, it will be a little bit different than if you're speaking from 10, 20 people. I believe that the moment you start telling a story, you stop selling commodity. So a lot of people, we have this mindset of like, man, the industry changed, the laws changed, now I am in this box here. You don't have to be in any box. I'm telling you that the way for you to stand out, use communication as a competitive tool. Another principle that I want to make sure you guys remember, finding a story requires purpose, and I hope that today ignite that purpose on you. Craft your story takes practice. That means that I don't believe that in a little hour together you're going to have an amazing story. It takes practice. Why? Because you're trying to put 50 years, 60 years in 5 minutes. But most important, sharing a story takes passion. And I'm super passionate about helping you get your story out. And last piece of advice of today is this. If you don't share your story, the marketplace will create one about you. And if you don't want to share, that's okay, don't share. But I'm telling you, the real estate agents in your area, the consumers in your area, the financial planners, because not knowing your story is having a story. Think about that. So if you don't share your story, the marketplace will create one about you. What I want to do, I actually want to give a gift. Say gift. No catch here. I have it's almost 6 hours on storytelling training. There's probably I think 12, 13 videos. So if you guys take a picture or maybe text later, all you gotta do, you just send a text to this number, 858-800-2266, and you put the number there and you text story. It's gonna ask you for your first name and email, and then you're gonna receive a login, and you're gonna have a really cool course on storytelling, not only a personal story, but how to set up the other types of stories too. So make sure you take a picture. How many of you know who Chet Holmes is? Okay, a couple people. So Chet Holmes was a New York Times best-selling author. He actually passed away 3 years ago. And when I left Tony Robbins in 2008, my last job was a guy named Gene. And Gene left to work for him, for Chet Holmes. He left Tony. And they opened up this huge consulting division. And then a couple of months later, when I left Tony Robbins, Gene, my previous boss, called me up and said, hey man, how's InfluenceOlogy? I was just starting out. He goes, great. He goes, we're about to close the largest contract with the second largest construction company in the planet, largest construction company in Mexico. It's called Homex. You say, okay, good for you guys. And then I said, now Chet Holmes will be presenting for 2 days from the stage for 600. How many? 600 people. And we need a guy who can speak in Spanish for 2 days, translate his presentation. Can you do that? Now, let me pause the story. Roberto's from where? And Brazil speak what? Portuguese. Thank you. And I said, tell me more about it. And then he said, well, you're going to have this, a screen, chat's going to be in English, and your screen is going to be in Spanish. Now, I'm not crazy, and I did study Spanish in high school. Hola, ¿cómo está una cerveza, por favor? Right? So say, I can do it. So I gave my price, and I never heard from Gene anymore. So a week passed by, nothing. 2 weeks passed by, nothing. Then a Sunday evening, 7 o'clock, Gene called me up. Hey, buddy. And I'm like, hey, bro, I thought you forgot about me. No. I got the deal for you. Not this Thursday, the next Thursday, you are going to Mexico City to speak for 2 days, 10 hours a day, to 600 sales professionals. Are you ready, big boy? And my heart goes, yeah. So I hang up immediately. I went to Google and I typed it up. Spanish class intensive, go, boom. Now, it was Sunday, 7 o'clock. I was calling everybody. Nobody picked up the phone. Then, finally, someone answered the cell phone and I said, I want to hire you right now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 hours a day. She goes, okay. I clear my schedule. I cancel all my appointments. Monday morning, I went to Borders and Barnes & Noble, and I bought every single audiobook in Spanish. The only thing they had was Joe Osteen translated in Spanish. Right? So now I'm going to my classes, listen to it, like immersion. So they send me 500 slides, 500, to rehearse. So now I have my teacher, one-on-one, 4 hours. I'm reading Spanish. She's correct me. And we had to do these rehearsals with Chet. Now, Chet doesn't speak Spanish. So he said something in English. I said something in Spanish. And he goes, how are you doing, Roberto? I said, I'm doing great. Right? So we did that. Then Thursday evening, flew to Mexico City. Arrived there. Big limo, pick us up, security guards, go to the hotel, went to bed, wake up in the morning, Friday the show. Huge, beautiful room, 600 people, and the event started. So Chet Holmes here, PowerPoint in English, and I'm like, man, I just want to get through this, right? So I'm reading my slides in Spanish. So far, so good. Then all of a sudden, Chet Holmes goes into his personal story, which we had in practice. Now, how many of you know what Spanglish is? Spanglish. Right? Half Espanol, half what? In Portuguese, you have something called Portunhol. Half Portuguese, half Espanol. Right? So now, he went through his story, and now I'm trying to translate like so fast, and then all of a sudden, I saw people's face like this, like, and I saw this lady marching, like from the back of the room. In the middle of the talk. And I'm like, Chet's speaking. I'm like, yeah, what's up? She goes, we have to remove you from the stage right now. I'm like, right now? Why? Because people cannot understand your Spanish accent. And then they remove me. Right in the middle of the talk. And then they had a chair for me, and they put a chair in the corner, and I'm sitting, and I'm like, oh! I just got kicked out of the stage. in front of 600 people. And I'm like, why did I do that? First break, nobody came and talked to me. Second break, nobody came and talked to me. Third break, nobody came and talked to me. And I'm like, that's terrible. Go to my room, had dinner by myself. 9 o'clock, Gene, the guy who hired me, say, hey buddy, how are you doing? I'm like, dude, I don't feel good. I have now started the event. He goes, I'm sorry, man. I said, okay. And he said, I want to ask a quick favor. So what is it? Tomorrow, I'm supposed to do a 2-hour talk on presentation skills. And I haven't done my talk yet. Can you speak for 2 hours tomorrow in English? And then you're going to have someone translate to Spanish. By the way, it's not part of a contract. You don't have to do it. You're not going to get paid extra. It's a favor. And I said, of course I want to do it. Because you see, either in life, you own your results, or your results own you. And I was sitting in that chair right there, my quote-unquote results, failure, owned me. And that night was another aha moment in my life. I said, of course I want to do it. So I practice. I came back Saturday morning now, and it was so funny because when they introduced me again, I knew what people were thinking. Like, this guy again? They didn't know I was going to speak in English now. So I gave my talk, and that was probably one of the coolest experiences in my life because the same people that saw me being kicked out of the stage on Friday, they stood up and gave me an ovation. And the only reason I tell you that story is because in life, in your business specifically, you are going to have a bad day. You are going to have a bad week. Maybe you're going to have a bad month, a bad year. But it is worth it because your mission to help people is worth it. You are worth it. Your family worth it. And you're worthy of achieving all the dreams you have. I want to thank Mark Green and Jonathan for bringing me here. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.